We don't do videos like this on the channel very often. Normally we're hunting baboons with hunter-gatherers in Africa, or pulling crystal skulls that were Mayan sacrifices out of caves in Belize.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
We don't just sit on hotel beds and talk about our feelings. Until today, when that's exactly what we're gonna do, because there's been something kind of happening behind the scenes that I've finally been able to figure out, that I think if I tell this story, there'll be a few of you online on the internet around the world that will be able to figure out a part of your life that perhaps has been very confusing and very scary. So, about a year ago, I posted a video on this channel about having too much ayahuasca. I had 4 shots and basically saw God. I went in there, Mr. Fearless and Far, thinking, I've looked underneath the bed. I know what the scary things are in my world. Anyway, I was so wrong. Had a bit too much, 4 shots, my whole world ripped open, saw what I can only imagine was God in this giant white light of spiraling patterns. And this presence said, "Oh, you poor little thing. You think you wanted to see behind the curtain? Oh my God, take a frickin' look. You can't even understand what you're looking at. It's like an earthworm being shown schematics to a rocket ship. You can't even understand the paper that is printed on, you poor soul." And I left that with a different appreciation for life, myself, how this all came to be, and it's just a vague confusion to my place. From there, a lot of clarity came, but safe to say, it was quite traumatic. The whole story's been posted. Check out the video. I encourage you to listen. It was a wild experience. However, what I'm talking about today is not more of that. It's been posted. I'm here to talk about what happened after. My life took a very interesting twist. During that experience, like I said, I was shown a lot of things that I could do if I wasn't held back by my fear and limiting beliefs and all of these things. And so from there, I was able to blast forward and do a lot of great things for business. However, something happened in my brain. Life became a little bit detached, and what I thought had happened is that I was still a little bit high from the experience. And I went from the ayahuasca trip straight into skydiving lessons. I was doing my A certification, my Class A license for skydiving. So I went from that into, like, 3 days later, jumping out of airplanes like 3 times a day, trying to be able to get my certification to skydive. And then from there went into another big trip where we were hiking through jungles, and another one where I traveled around the world and went back to Africa, and it was this boom, ka-ka-boom, ka-ka-boom, and I kind of got caught up in this whirlwind. And in all of this, I had started a new relationship, and there was some stresses there with the travel and everything too, and I just began to feel like I had never come down from being high on ayahuasca. It was almost like there was a pane of glass or like plastic on the world, or like I was still caught in some sort of strange dream. I would notice my vision would do little tweaky things. I'd have like little, what felt like black cat moments where there'd be like something kind of happen and jerk twice, like the Matrix. And I started to get freaked out. In my family, there's a few of my grandparents have developed Alzheimer's, and I kind of felt like I was getting more forgetful, and I was still fucking high. And then from there, I started to think, oh shit, maybe I'm getting one of these horrible diseases. Maybe I am still high. Maybe I've broken my brain. And it all became extremely confusing, and I honestly thought I was screwed, that I had taken too much, that I was still stuck in some cosmic place where my life from this point forward was just gonna be this dream state of this like altered reality, like my life was a movie. I remember doing a Zoom call where I was watching my video on the screen, and I thought that I was the video. It was just, it was freaky. And from there, once you start questioning your own reality, I started to think, am I going insane? Is this what happens before you go insane? And it just started to spiral and spiral and spiral until I really didn't know what to do. So then one day, by chance, I was watching a Post Malone interview, of all the things. I love his music. Not so much the new country stuff, but the old stuff especially. And he was talking about one time a year ago, he smoked a bad joint, and he's been high ever since.
For the longest time ever since then, it's felt like I've been almost like watching my life happen instead of actually like living it. Does that make sense?
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. You had a bad joint and you still feel like you're high. And he explained he feels detached, he feels separated from himself, like his life's a movie. And I'm like, that's what happened to me, but I didn't smoke pot, I had ayahuasca. And then what happened is I started to look more into this thing, and there was all sorts of information out there, but basically what I realized is that this is a very common thing that happens to people when they do have too much of a particular drug, particularly pot, but it can happen for DMT, it can happen for most things, generally except for alcohol. And it's this safety mechanism that your body puts in place for anxiety. So I never really consider myself that anxious of a person. But if you know my journey here on Fearless and Far, I used to have a phobia of public speaking, bone-chilling phobia. And I would tell myself I would almost black out when I would give speeches. And I'd always get like a C. I'd do a mediocre job, but I would kind of like leave my body for a second. And I realized that over the years, I've had this, I don't want to call it a condition because technically we all have this ability to disassociate ourselves when something stressful happens. So if there's a car crash, or you've got to run from the enemy, or you've got to give a speech in public, your body has this natural ability, it's a gift really, to disassociate from reality so you can act independent of your feelings and just get the job done. And I fucking realized that this gift that got me through all of these speeches, who got me through all of this public speaking stuff, when I felt deeply uncomfortable, had just become a permanent thing. In the moment, you got the adrenaline, you got the dangers happening, whatever it be, real or not real, manufactured or whatever, and then the adrenaline kind of makes you forget, and then you return back to yourself. Your body comes back together, it's ready to feel the feelings again, and everything's fine. But I had gotten stuck in this world where I was just kind of perpetually stressed about this trip that I had. And so therefore I lived in this dissociative state. It's called depersonalization. And because I had this traumatic drug experience, I don't like to call it a bad trip because so much good happened from it in my life as far as my spirituality, my connection to the man and woman above, as well as I got really good insight about what to do in my work. I was still stuck in this mind frame of what the is this world we're in right now? Is it all real? Is it a simulation? And throw in skydiving lessons and particular stresses in a relationship, and your boy was a little detached from life. He wasn't still high. He didn't break his brain. All of these horrible conditions weren't real. I was just questioning my reality and my brain so much that then I just had that stress response to remove myself. And that, my friends, is just anxiety. Anxiety is one of these things that it only exists when we allow it to exist. When we're afraid of being afraid, if we're afraid to travel and we're worried about how afraid we're gonna be or to be close to an edge, whatever it be, it's just the fear of the fear. It's like you're lighting a tire on fire and pushing it down the road. It just explodes into panic, and in a state of panic, you can't do anything. So then what happens, there's dissociation, depersonalization, and you can function when in normal circumstances, maybe you would panic. So I had just got wrapped up in what the is reality, and then with all the other stress with my travel job, was just getting too obsessed with what was wrong with me, or was this world really real? And with that, put a layer of plastic over the planet. But again, I have to reiterate, it's not if you were going crazy, you wouldn't know. If anything, you're going the opposite of crazy. If you've had one of these experiences where you've gotten too high and you felt like you've never come down and life gets a little bit detached and freaky, actually it's your body it's your body being hyper aware. And when I was seeing things that I thought were a bit strange, it was because I was just fixating on everything. I was looking for a threat constantly all of the time, and then from there being worried when I saw little things happening. The reality is, it's kind of like the fire alarm, right? Going off in your head. But the fire alarm's never going to burn down the house, is it? It'll warn you about a fire, but if there's no fire, which there wasn't, the house is fine. Bro, you're fine. You're fine if you're watching this at home. Fearing fear leads to these kinds of conditions. And if you do have some sort of anxiety, you have to understand the more you think about it, the more you focus about it, the more you research it, the more you diagnose yourself and label yourself, the worse it's gonna get. How these things go away, how I was able to get rid of this silly condition that I somehow concocted in my own brain was being like, what the fuck is going on? This is fine, you're fine, everything's fine. You know what? Double it. I don't care. Bring it on. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of you fear. I'm not afraid of you anxiety. I'm not afraid of being detached. I am here. I am connected. Let's go. And then poof, the bully goes away. Fear feasts on more fear. You gotta stop giving it the juice. You gotta cut it away. You gotta say, yes, give me more, baby. Yes, right. Lay it on thicker. And then all the fear in your life goes away and it loses power. You gain all of the power. So that's what I learned by breaking my brain on ayahuasca. Don't want to discourage people from trying plant medicine. This is just my experience. Honestly, I consider it a net positive because it allowed myself to honestly make a lot of changes in my life. I live a crazy life. You guys know this. You know, you see me jump around and do things. I don't do it. I don't relax enough. It's always just dialed to the max. With this, more relaxation, more meditation, more time in the spa. I was never really a spa guy most of my life. But now you go, you chill in the ice bath, you relax, you just kind of take a chill pill. That's what I learned. Sometimes I gotta just take a chill pill. Anyway, I hope this helped. Remember, don't fear the fear. Watch out, it's sneaky. It'll come into your life like this. And if you're suffering with something like this, feeling detached, you smoked a bad joint, or you had some plant medicine and you never came down, you're fine. You're fine. I'm Mike from Fearless and Far, the most adventurous channel on YouTube. I hope this video helped some of you, and for those of you who haven't found themselves down this rabbit hole, I hope at least the story was entertaining. Later.